It's rather dark, isn't it? Yeah. I don't want to... Thunder! I don't know if you can hear that, but there's thunder. That's why it's a bit dark. I can always turn on the light, but I think my face is so naturally pale that it reflects enough light for you to be able to see me. What was I going to say? Oh, yes. Hello. Hello and welcome. I have a quick question. Do you hear a soft sort of bubbling, buzzing noise? Let me elaborate. I have my tea, but it's almost done. So I also poured my one of my vices. Here's a Coke Zero with a bit of lime. But you hear this? It has a type of noise, isn't it? Anyway, I can hear it, but I put it far away from the microphone. Sorry for banging this down back in the desk, by the way. That must not have been pleasant. All right. So, what do we have going? Welcome, everybody. It's rather dreadful out here. It's completely overcast. I just heard some thunder starting. It's a very, very, very dark gray cloud, but we're inside and we're happy. So, how y'all doing? Y'all. How y'all doing? No, don't worry. I mean, I have not set anything on fire here yet, but it would be a trick show. We were just discussing on Instagram to attract more viewers. You might try to put a notebook on fire as you write in it. It's really strange though, because that Coke is right there. It's about, I don't know, 2 feet away from my face. It's very loud. I don't usually hear this loudly, but I do now because now I've noticed it. Now I cannot unhear it. Whoa. Okay, here's another fun fact, because I'm sorry, I'm going to get into your questions, but now I just saw myself because I can see myself, right? I saw my eyes turn. Here's something fascinating about the brain that you may know, but maybe you don't, and then it's cool. Try this out. You don't have to do it now. Not now, because now you're listening, but at some point, stand in front of a mirror, move your eyes to the side, and then move them straight ahead and look at yourself again. You will not see your eyes move. Have you ever thought about it? Have you ever noticed it? You will not see your eyes move. How? Why? Well, because your brain is built in such a way. Imagine what would happen if it would continue. Your eyes move all the time, right? It's called a saccade, or a saccade, depends a bit how you want to pronounce it. But anyway, I would say saccade. So your eyes move all the time. Even if you think you're staring straight at something, there's tiny little movements, sort of scanning. That's how your brain builds up what it's looking at. But what's interesting is your brain suppresses basically sort of input as your eyes are moving. So you will never see your eyes move. It's impossible. You can watch someone else's eyes move, obviously, because that's not your brain, but you cannot see your own eyes move. You can only do it on video. But in a mirror, you will see your eyes, or you won't see your eyes, and you will see them, and you won't, and you will see them, but you can't see them move. Whoa. Okay, sorry. I just get excited about these things. Have you ever ordered ink via mail and have it arrive frozen in Canada? No. But I have told people when I ordered something, or let me rephrase it, I have tried to not order ink in winter. We had an interesting week here in Red Deer this winter where it was -40, and that's weird. That's the type of thing where you throw like a cup of water in the air and it just turns to vapor. It's really, really strange. I should have recorded. Anyway, maybe this winter. So no, but it could happen. And I'm pretty sure I've heard of people in colder climes who have had that happen. So I just make sure that I have all my ink needs in summer. And then, zippity zappity, as they say. Okay. Speaking of bubbling, buzzing, I want to get SBREBROWN ink. How long would it take to get to New Jersey, roughly? Well, let me tell you a fun story. My Dutch credit card, I still have a Dutch bank account. My Dutch credit card had expired early June. So I messaged my bank. It's really cool that you can do this on apps and chat live with people across the world now. So sound like an old man. But anyway, so I contacted them and I said, hey, yo, diggity dog, what's up? And they said, yo, dog, what's up? And I said, well, you know, man, my credit card. And they said, oh, dog, we send it to you in March. And this was June. So they said, don't worry about it. It's probably pandemic. We'll block it. We'll send you a new one. Guess what arrived in the mail the next day? Literally the next day. The old credit card, which is blocked. So anyway, how long would it take? That's hard to say. I have the feeling mail is picking up a little bit, but international mail is still a bit slow. So I would say the Netherlands to the US, especially New Jersey, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, that should do it. But now all bets are off. So you could have a chat with Vanessa and see if they will restock SBREBROWN now that it's available again. And then we get it. But I mean, of course, they have to wait to get it too. So I don't know if that saves you a lot of time, but then at least it's coming from within the US. So you know that once it is shipped, it'll be faster. But that's what I would have to say about it. All right. Sunny in San Francisco. Well, it just started to pour in Red Deer. Greetings from Wisconsin. Yeah, speaking of, Blue Stem Penco. Look what I got. It's pretty. I rather like this because it has a magnetic cap, which also posts magnetically, which I think is quite cool. So this is from the Blue Stem pens, and it's been fun. I've been having fun with this. So at some point there should be a review. It'll happen. A bit of a wait list right now, but we'll do it. The Coke is only in your mind. Yeah. Well, it's not that type of Coke, you know, it's not the type of snorty Coke. Do you hear the rain now? We can make this into another ASMR thing. Listen to the rain. Is it relaxing? Yeah, let me try to put this down gently this time. There we go. Okay, so we have that. Thinking, oh, this is a good thought. Thinking of dumping all my pens, 30, and standardizing on the Jinhao Shark for $18. They draw lines. What else do I need? That's a very minimalist thought of you. And I've often felt that way. Like, what do you really... I mean, I think a really wise decision is to just have one pen, right? But then how do you make the decision in different materials and different filling systems and different nibs? Many considerations. Troublesome. We need to think more about this. Okay. Yeah, I over-scrolled again. Hi. I want to purchase the Mont Blanc Le Petit Prince, one of the 700 versions, as my first fountain pen. I don't write very often, maybe once every 2 weeks for quick notes. Will the pen be dry by the time I try to use it after days of no use? Likely, yes. Fountain pens are not really the type of pens that you cap and then leave unused for weeks and then write a bit with. That is almost certainly going to lead to drying out problems. So in that case, a ballpoint might be better, or a pencil, simply because they don't dry out, you see. So I would, if that is your intended use, then I would maybe consider not using a fountain pen, or, yeah, no, that's just it. No, maybe not. Yeah. I mean, you could ink it up on demand, but that means every time you have to ink it up and clean it and everything, that's not very convenient either. Let me see, what else do we have? How many Coke Zeros do you currently own? Yeah, that's a good one. Well, I drink them all. I buy them in big bottles, though. I used to buy them in the small, like you go to the supermarket, you buy them in the small, like the six packs of the can. Well, here you don't have 6 packs, really, right? It's North America, so in 24 packs of everything. Well, then I realized, what am I doing? Because I'm creating all this waste. You can also just buy a 2-liter bottle. Massive insight. Howdy, all. What else do we have? Canada Post. We say Canada Post sucks these days. Yeah, I think Canada Post has always sucked, to be entirely honest, given their pricing and the service rendered for it. But honestly, I think that mail just sucks right now. I'm awaiting. A company sent me a couple of pens to review early June, coming from Florida, and they're still not in. But also, basically, as soon as the package was going to cross the border, all tracking stopped. It just ceased, and I sent my sister-in-law birthday gift. She's in Toronto, so it's within Canada. I mailed it the 7th, so that was 5 days ago. The tracking kept saying it was in Calgary, 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 up until this morning, and then it arrived in Brampton. And then it was suddenly updated, like sorted in Brampton, out for delivery, delivered. Also on a Sunday. The Canada Post traditionally does not deliver on a Sunday. Whoa, conspiracy, man. Like, whoa. Anyway, so yeah, I think it's mail. I mean, it is understandable. With the pandemic, they have to be very careful. I understand all of this. So I'm not angry or upset about these things. It's just the way it is right now. I'm sure the mail is doing everything they can, right? But yeah, it is hard. That is serious rain, by the way. Good thing I saw this coming, closed my window earlier. I had my window open last night as I was sleeping, right under the window. All of a sudden I thought, what is this feeling on my face? But it was rain. It was, yeah. I have such amazing stories today. Okay, let's see. What else do we have? I've been I overscrolled again. I have been a fountain pen geek for about a year now. Am I wasting my life? No, you would be wasting your life if you had not been a fountain pen geek for a year. You always have to look and see if you can also turn the argument around. They're very helpful sometimes. Hello from Yuma, Arizona. The forecast is for 117 degrees Fahrenheit, 47 degrees Celsius today. That sounds absolutely dreadful. I honestly can say I don't mind the cold so much, but heat is something I don't tolerate very well. I'm too pale. This is another thing. Aziza, we got together and she was like, "Oh, I want to go to a beach," and I was like, "I can't go to a beach." She said, "What do you mean? I can't go to a beach?" I said, I cannot go to a beach. Like I crisp up. He was like, "I don't understand that." But she's brown. She's a brown family, so she's not used to people not being able to handle sun. I can hike all day. I can go out in the snow all day. It's not an issue. But give me 10 minutes of sun, and I start to look like Lord Windermere. Just saying. Okay. What else do we have? How are you today? How was your week? How was the skeleton? Well, the week was interesting. There was some interesting things. There was some some good things. I got a paper back after it was reviewed, and the reviews were not exactly scathing, so that's a good thing. So we will revise that paper. Actually, I have revised the paper. It's now the co-authors who will read it, give me feedback, and then we will resubmit it to that journal. And I think we have a good shot of actually publishing that there, which is pretty sweet. Been pretty good. Roger has also been good. He's just hanging out, smoking a cigarette. What do you use for lighting? Light and nothing fancy. So I have a standing lamp there, which I suppose I could turn on. In 1 second, I have to bend over here. It's all under control, don't worry. Slava Tebie, pokazawszy mu nam swie. There we go. There we are. It's a bit better, isn't it? Yeah, so that's just the light. And then I have two little desk lamps with LEDs that you can adjust the brightness, and that's what I use. The only problem is they seem to emit a light buzzing noise that the camera picks up. So in some of the reviews, you can hear it, and you can hear this high-pitched like that, but a bit higher and a bit less loud, hopefully. And that's coming from those LEDs. That's interesting too. I think my video is now, my camera doesn't like this. Tell me if the video is still okay, because I can see horizontal lines. So that sometimes happens with specific types of light, right? Otherwise, we can turn it off again. Okay. So that's it. I don't use studio light or something. I probably should, but I don't. Have you ever had a SBREBROWN by fbnibs.com? No, I haven't. I've heard very good things about them though, so I would not have any issues recommending them. But I have not personally. No, not had personally done. Have not had work done by them personally. Okay. What else do we have? Do you miss having pets? Yeah, I do sometimes. The advantage of not having pets is that you have a lot of freedom, and if you have to leave for a day or have to go on some trip, it's very easy. But it is fun, and it is something that I sometimes miss. Yes. Thank you for tipping me off the Santini Libra with Flex. I'm glad you like it. They're nice pens. And it's nice that they make everything in-house, right? Including the nibs. I do think that's a nice thing, yeah. Yes, indeed. So we're talking about this again. Yes, a magnetic cap. Yes, it is. Absolutely, it's a gimmick. And there are many pens that have done this. But I think it's kind of cute. Enjoy it. That's definitely thunder. Have you ever had chicken with waffles? I know of the combination, but I have not had that I can remember. So I think the answer is no. I have not had chicken with waffles. I know it's a southern thing, and I should try it one day because chicken is good and waffles are good. So the combination sounds fairly #winning, but still have to do it. Yeah. What is your opinion on Pepsi? Well, I will drink it if for example, once upon a time, there was a world where you could go to a restaurant, and if they would have Pepsi, then I would drink Pepsi. I only drink the diet stuff, and I prefer Coke Zero. I never understood the progression where. So the short answer is I personally prefer Coca-Cola over Pepsi. I don't even know if you were to give me a blind test if I would be able to taste the difference. It's probably psychological, but I know that if I know that it is Pepsi, I think I prefer Coke better. It's really weird. I've never fully understood the progression of you have Coke, and then Coca-Cola makes Diet Coke, and then they make Coke Zero a couple of years later, and they say, yeah, this is closer to the flavor of Coca-Cola. So the Diet Coke was not. So you couldn't initially figure out. Anyway, I like Coke Zero with a bit of lime. That really helps. And at some point I was at work and we had a lunch, and there was they had canned drinks, like pop soda drinks. And there was regular Coke. So I thought, oh, I'll have a regular Coke. And I was drinking it. And I suddenly had this effect of, and I wasn't sure what it was, but then I checked the ingredients and I read that 1 can of Coke has 30 grams of sugar. Now, for the fun of it, take a kitchen scale and weigh 30 grams of sugar and see how much sugar that is. That's an interesting experience. So I prefer the Coke Zero. I pre-ordered the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande in Stromboli, primarily manipulation material, primary manipulation material from Appelboom with a music nib. Do you have plans to review that version? Have you tried the music nibs? I had no plans to review that version because I have reviewed the Grande. I will check with Salvatore because they have the new piston. And it might be nice to compare that to the old piston. I think people would find that interesting. And maybe I can ask him for a music nib too then, because I haven't tried the music nibs. Now, as I understand it, their nibs are, sorry, if I remember correctly, their nibs are Bach. And I have used the Bach music nib. That's a nice nib. It's a good nib. It's good. It's good. All right. Hey, Steven, greetings from Germany. Hello. I'm contemplating, that sounds a lot like Clive. Yeah. Hello. I'm sorry. I'm contemplating, I don't know. The worst thing is when people laugh at their own jokes and it wasn't even a joke. I'm contemplating getting a Von Spec pen case for Leonardo Momento Zero Grande. Does yours fit in your 4-pen case? Spec says max 140 and pen is 150. Well, Stefan, why don't we check it? You saw it here first. Here's a Von Spec case. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to make less noise. There we go. And here is a Leonardo Momento Zero Grande. And here is the case. And that's 4 pens in it. So let's take this out. This is a Amare Club Bologna Extra that barely fits. It fits, but then the flap barely closes. But the Grande is not nearly as big as the Bologna Extra is. So let's slip in the Grande. I think it's not going to be an issue. There you go. Fits all the way. Straight. No issues. Now you know. Problem solved. Hashtag boom. Let me see. If you had to go for a toilet break, could Roger fill in? He could, but he's a bit shy if I'm not around. Yeah. But he would probably tell a joke. Also, recently acquired a Santini Libra based on your recommendations. Amazing pen. Watching your channel is getting quite expensive. I've heard that before. This was my... One does not simply watch an SBREBROWN review face, but yeah, I heard that. I once walked into, this was Akkerman in The Hague, and a British couple was there, and lady said that she absolutely hated that dreadful sound every time the video started up. And usually that was because she knew that it would inspire her husband to buy another pen. So I thought that was funny. Can you recommend some nibmeisters in the USA? Yes, Mike Masayama, Dan Smith. If you Google nibmeister, you will find many, right? Dan Smith is good. The nib grinder, so there's a nib Smith. The nib grinder is good. Mark Bacchus, very nice guy too. So there are many options in the US. I almost want to say more than anywhere else in the world. I mean, I know Japan still has some traditional adjusters in some of the shops, but I mean, the US it's easy, so it shouldn't be an issue to find some. Which pen manufacturing workshop would you want to visit? Well, that's a good question. I would like. Well, there's probably a few. Pelican does the thing where you can have one of your nibs customized, but I'm not a huge Pelican fan, which is not a function of the pens. They're very nice pens, but I just don't have the need to own any anymore. What I would like to see, because we're talking about Santini, I would like to see Santini because they make their own nibs, and I find that very interesting. And I think that Santini, they really do their job with passion because they make pens that are very usable and that that are very comfortable. So given that they do everything in-house, I would kind of like to see how they do that. Another workshop that it's not necessarily just pens, but that I absolutely would want to see how that works is Paul Rossi, who is somewhere in California. I want to say Los Angeles, but that could be a fabrication. Paul Rossi is, as I understand it, someone who primarily makes jewelry, but he does make pens, for example, for classic pens. And I had a discussion with Andy Lambrew of Classic Pens at some point. And he indicated how some of their pens are faceted, but Paul Rossi creates those facets by hand, which is interesting enough. But he had some story, I have to ask him again, but he had some story about how, because the pen barrel is tapered, to make the facets look straight, Paul has to offset those facets at a tiny, like 2 degrees or something, to make it look straight, while in reality it's not. And Andy described how he's one of the few people in the world who can actually do that by hand. And I find that fascinating. And the thing is, it's easy to say classic pens are overpriced, they're too expensive. Yes, they are very expensive pens. But if you understand, or if you take into account then how long it takes someone to make a pen like that, all by hand with incredible skill, then you start to get more of an appreciation of the price. You may still not agree with the price, of course, but I think then you understand better how incredibly difficult it is to create such a product. And I would like to talk to him about that. I think that would be very interesting. All right. What else do we have? I'm very gently scrolling here. Greetings from Toronto. I like the size of TWSBI Eco. Are the Pelican 600 and Lamy 2000 similar size of TWSBI Eco? Also, is there any flex steel nib out there, or flex nib is only available in gold? No, there are many steel flex nibs. Noodlers has them, and Fountain Pen Revolution has them. And then there are some sort of hacks that you can do where you can put a dip nib, steel dip nib on a pen, but that's a little bit more complicated. So if you want to purchase an actual nib that does that, then you could, for example, check out Fountain Pen Revolution, because I'm pretty sure they have number 5 nibs that might actually fit a TWSBI. But I mean, no guarantees, but theoretically. I don't have the measurements in mind so closely that I can tell you they're all eco-sized. I have probably measurements of a 600 on the website. On the Eco, I'm pretty sure almost certainly I do. The 2000, I'm not 100% sure. I want to say the 2000 is maybe a tiny bit skinnier than the 600. None of these are massive pens, so they're probably all approximately the same length, at least, I would say. Yeah, that would be it. But think. If you're in Toronto, you should go to either Wonder Pens, they will have TWSBI, or you should go to Ley Wines, which has Pelican as well as Lamy, and you can hold them all. I don't know if Peter Leywine, if he has TWSBI, but again, Wonder Pens does. And besides, you like TWSBI, so you know the TWSBI. Then go to Ley Wines, because I'm not sure if Wonder Pens has Pelican and such. I just forget. Maybe they do. In any case, you're in Toronto, you have a pen shop at hand, try it out, because then you can actually hold them. And I think that is much better, because even if they are the same size, doesn't mean that you like the grip. The Lamy 2000 has a special type of grip. It's not for everyone. So do that. Do it now. Well, not now, but I mean, do it. Do it. It'll be useful. Hello. Have you ever designed a pen or contributed in the design of one? This is my all-purpose designer pose. No. Should still try to get something off the ground, shouldn't I? But for now, the short answer is no, I haven't. No. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. But one day, I don't really like. I had this idea of maybe doing something together with Salvatore from Leonardo, and he was interested. But given #pandemic, I don't really want to pressure anyone now into doing something when it's already difficult, and these are small companies that have to keep all that, like, they have to keep afloat, right? So I don't want to add more stress or more work to anyone than is necessary. So one day this pandemic will be over, and then we'll work on that. All right. I've been wasting my life. I just started this week. Yeah, there you go. But now you can redeem yourself by becoming a pen person. I did the window cleaner experiment. Consumer grade window cleaner, diluted 1 to 2 makes good fountain pen flush. Worked very well on 5 pens. Interesting. Nice. That's good to know. I'll try that out too. Who's your favorite fiction and non-fiction author? For fiction, probably. I mean, it's hard to pick, but if I would be hard pressed to pick one, I'd probably say Umberto Eco. That was some superb books. Not that many, but all superb in one way or another. For non-fiction, well, I read quite a lot of non-fiction. I've recently been going through a sort of Carl Sagan period / phase, and that makes for very interesting reading. So I would probably say something along those lines. Yeah, Carl Sagan probably for non-fiction at this point, but ask me again in half a year, that might be different. Canada Post is not too bad. I ordered in June from Peyton Street, California, and was to Montreal in 7 working days. Yeah, I think slowly things are starting up again, but it has been a little interesting. Okay, I'm gently scrolling. Greetings from sweltering Texas. Heat index 105 to 110. Like you, I'm pale. Grew up in Wisconsin. Hating this. Yeah, it's not my thing. That was the one thing that I struggled with in Toronto. So, well, it wasn't actually Toronto. It was Oshawa, but that's 60 kilometers east of Toronto. You're quite close there to Lake Ontario. So in winter, it's very cold because it feels very cold. The temperatures are not as low as where I am now, but because of the humidity, it's a very chilling cold. But in summer, you get this humid heat, and that I really can't handle well. All right. Yes, thank you. All the best for the paper. Thank you. And it will be in a special issue too, like a special topics issue, which is always interesting because then you get a bit more exposure. So I'm really fingers crossed, but we shall see. I'll let you know. I looked like Lord Windermere once. Worst summer of my life. Yeah, I was young and had sunblock on, but was at an outdoor pool, and of course it washed off. And then the water acts as a lens focusing the sun. Mother of God. I was crying that night because it's a burn, right? It's an actual burn. My back, like everything, it was dreadful. No, this is not. No, no, this should not be a thing. I mean, I'm happy the sun exists, but you know. Hello. I like the squeaky chair. It has character. Yeah. My God, I'm so sorry. I just knocked over the microphone. I'm still not used to this. I'm so sorry. My headphone wearers. I apologize. The latest thing is that this armrest is a bit loose. What is this? I might have to invest at some point in a new chair. But anyway, for now, it's not falling apart yet. What else do we have? The video looks fine. Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it's. I can see on my screen. I can see this sort of horizontal lines that sometimes happens with specific light sources, but it seems to be good. Okay, perfect. Maybe an electric chair, one with the battery motor. Yeah, could be. That'd be fun. I would enjoy that. Like a little. We had a math teacher in high school who was a bit eccentric, and I really liked him. And at some point, the teachers got new chairs, and they had their actual desk chairs with actual little rolly wheels. And we had this set of classrooms in a corridor. It's a high school, so there was this corridor, and then you have these windows looking out from the classroom into that corridor. But if you would walk past them, you would only be able to see like someone from about the waist up. And he loved his chair so much, he basically refused to get out of it. So he would roll around the school in his desk chair, and we'd be sitting in these classrooms, and you just sort of you'd see like this just sliding by like that. And that was just him, just sort of sliding by. Really weird. Teachers, man. Anyway, will you be doing more light in the darkness videos? Absolutely. The reason that has slowed down a bit is that we started off with the stuff that we are very familiar with, but now we have slowly moved to topics that we ourselves need to review a little bit once in a while. So that's why it's a little slower, but I'm absolutely not... we're not done. We both absolutely want to continue that. So don't worry. There will absolutely be, I said absolutely a lot. There will definitely be more videos in that series. Yeah, for sure. I watch your enthusiastic Logotherapy products review, and I'm quite interested in the A5 notebook cover. Are you using it on a regular basis? If so, has it passed the test of time? That's a piece of... No, yes, I have. And it's just outside of arm's reach, but it's there. Yes, I've used it a lot, actually, for work. I used it every day, and it has not fallen apart. It's held up really well, and my opinion has not changed. So I still am very enthusiastic about those products. Best fear of missing out hype fad in fountain pens or inks: modern flex, conids, platinum, etc. I think there's a number, yes. And I've also done a video on this at some point. When I got interested in fountain pens seriously, that was the end of 2010. And around that time, so I would say early 2011, Noodlers was incredibly hot. And that was just their original pen, the nib creeper, the thin, smaller one. At that point, still with handset ebonite feeds. And flex was the rage, and everything was flex. And then we've had shimmering inks, and then shimmering inks gave way to sheening inks. Everything has to have sheen. In pens, I don't know so much if there is really a FOMO type thing. I mean, yes, there is. specific brands launching pens and inks all the time, just different finishes, different types of inks, but variations on the same theme. But for me, those are the big things. The flex, and the flex has kind of stayed because everybody wants to do the flex writing. But then there is the shimmer inks, and there's the sheen and everything. Look at social media. Look at what people post. The sheen, I have the feeling, has cooled down a bit. But there was a time that if I would open up Instagram, there would be 50 pictures of sheening inks. And another thing is black wing pencils. Black wing pencils. Oh, black wing pencils. Oh, you see my black wing? Look at all black wing pencils everywhere. Black wing pencils. I'm sure they're great pencils, but it almost becomes an obsession at some point for some people. Which I don't mean in a judgmental fashion, but in my mind, that is a fad. Like everybody, all of a sudden, all you see is, well, this is, and that I do find that a bit peculiar, which makes me sound, I sometimes think, grumpy. I don't mean this in a grumpy way, but I think you have a point. These are hypes, and they also die out again, and then it's the next thing, and then it became, for me, it became number 8 nibs, because I discovered that number 8, you don't get so many number 8 nibs. And then you start to notice all these companies suddenly doing number 8 nibs. But then that becomes your standard. Then you start to expect number 8 nibs and everything, which is not a realistic expectation. I mean, I would love to see a Sean design pen with a number 8 nib. That would be fascinating. It wouldn't even fit, I think. But you know what I mean? Like, yes. That was the summary. Yes, there are fads. And there is definitely a fear of missing out. And I see that also, for example, let me make that a bit more concrete, talking about the different pen finishes. Think of the Lamy Safaris that come out so regularly, and there's another color. They are very collectible because of that. They're usually relatively affordable, and they have all these different finishes. But how many Lamy Safaris does one need? This ties into what we were talking about earlier. How many pens do you really need? Well, if you're a collector, then you want to have every finish of Lamy. I understand. Oh, so sorry, of the Safari. I understand that. But that is something I try to avoid doing. I like this material. Diffusion bonded acrylic. In my mind, one of the prettiest pen materials. I have an LB5 and have an LM1 in it. At some point, I'll have an LB6 in it if all goes well. I was on the Classic Pens website, and I saw that there's now another prototype for the LB8. I didn't even know that was out, LB8. But it looks like that is basically a handmade version, like an LM1, made by Paul Rossi, I was talking about earlier, but with a handmade clip, a handmade center band. Beautiful pen. Comes in this material. I was sorely tempted, but it's $3,250. So do I really need that if that is basically this pen? Because that's what it looks like. I haven't held it, but it looks like it's this shape, but then with a handmade clip and center band. That's what I tell myself anyway. But it's an important thing, right? It's an important thing. You can keep buying and spending and buying and spending and all this kind of stuff. It's important to me to also have that perspective. That was a long rant. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rant, but yeah. Have you ever gotten your nibs grinded? If so, would you recommend them? Yes, I have. I overscrolled again, so let me just keep talking as I try to find where I was. Yes, I have. I have had nibs tuned, not ground. I have used the ground nibs, but I have used tuned nibs by Mike Masayama. I'm back where I was. And it's made a light and day difference. Visconti Opera Master Tobacco had a broad nib that skipped, that railroaded, that hard started, was dreadful. Broad 18K nib from Visconti. Usually they're very good, but this one was not. Gave it to Mike. I thought, well, this is going to be like a 2-minute, like he's going to quickly. At a pen show, he spent 15 minutes fiddling with it and setting the feed, plastic feed, interesting, but setting it and adjusting it and adjust. But that's a professional. And now it writes stunningly out of the box. Well, not out of the box, but I mean, upon uncapping, all the time, every time. Same thing with the Denitrio Mikado. Bought this from Eric. Beautiful pen. I love it, but the nib was unusable. It was so dry that it barely wrote. I contacted Mike. I said, "Can you fix it?" I knew he probably would be able to, but I just wanted to get his opinion because it's a fairly expensive pen. Before you send it, he said, "Oh, absolutely. Just tell me what you want with it." So you fill out a form, mail it to him. He mails it back. He has quite a long wait list, but he does excellent work. And this nib writes fantastic, smoother than ever, beautifully tuned, not a gusher, but just beautifully tuned. Not too wet, not too dry. Fantastic. I love it. So yeah, I would absolutely recommend. It doesn't have to be Mike Masayama. There are many others. As I said earlier, Mark Barker's, Dan Smith, Independence. There's so many in the US now. You pay a bit of money, but your pen will write exactly the way you want it to write. Now that was tuning. You asked about grinding. I have used grinds from Nibmeisters, not necessarily on pens I own, but from other people, and those two have all been stellar. Whether it was Richard Binder, whether it was John Martershaw, I have used Mike Masayama's grinds, just not own them, but use them from other people or such. Aziza has a few. Yeah, so no, absolutely worth it. You'll spend a bit more money, and the issue is that there's basically two schools of thought, right? There are some people who say a pen should write straight out of the box, and I agree with that. But there is another school of thought that says, well, yeah, but you get a basic tuning on your nib. I kind of disagree with that because sometimes they don't write, and that's just, in my mind, that's just not acceptable for a pen because it's supposed to write. But anyway, you get a basic grind, basic tuning. You want anything else, you pay that $20, $30, $40, depending on what you want, maybe 56 if you want something exotic. But then it will write exactly to your specification. And to some people that's worth it, and to some people it's not. But to me, yes, it is. I have a ground nib. This was a really broad, and okay, let me just grab this. I forgot my loop. I'll show it to you. This was a broad round nib for my LM1. Let me just clip this on. Where is it? Oh, here. And now it is ground to an architect. Sorry, it's a little hard to hold that really steady. But that used to be just a round ball of tipping. This was done by Salmon of the Toronto Pen Company. It's stellar, absolutely stellar. Beautiful nib, works really, really well. Just has character added to it, and I paid him for that. I forget what exactly, but these are more expensive grinds because it takes more work. It's not just a tuning. I don't want to say a price because I could be wrong. $50 or less, I would say. I paid him. Okay. Do you think for Leonardo pen it is worth to upgrade to a gold nib? What do you think about the quality control, Leonardo? I've had no issues with the quality control. I've had some of the nibs that were a little dry. The gold nibs, I personally prefer to their steel nibs, but there is nothing wrong with the steel nibs. For example, this is a Momento Zero. This has a steel fine nib. That is great. Works really nicely. So it's a substantial cost to upgrade them. And they're a bit springier, the gold nibs. I like it that they're a little, I don't flex, but I mean like just a little softer to write with, which I like. Hi there. In which order would you choose these three nibs for everyday writing? Pelikan M1000, Sailor King, a pen, Montblanc 149. All medium or fine? For me, I would choose the Sailor first. It will be very fine in a fine, right? But I find those very consistent. Montblanc and Pelikan is a toss me. Given that they're finer, they're probably both fine. Then I would probably go for the Pelikan M1000 and then for the Montblanc 149. But they will be both good nibs, especially the finer range, I would say. The M1000 may be a little softer, but they're all good. Have you reviewed an Lenovo fountain pen? Yes. Charles Dickens, I think. Dickens, I think so. Gray and white. It's not the vintage, it's the modern incarnation. What else? I like regular Coke over regular Pepsi, but I like Diet Pepsi better than Diet Coke. Well, now I have to try Diet Pepsi again. Again, I'm almost convinced that if you were to give me a blind taste test, I wouldn't be able to pick them out. But in my mind, you know. All right. Tomoe River Paper are changing their 52 grams per square meter paper composition and manufacturing process. It is expected to be less smooth among others. Any thoughts? I think it's going to be less smooth among others. But beyond that, I don't know. I don't know. I really I would have to try it. I don't know. The smoothness is part of their appeal, but I think also their incredible resistance to ink is really good. Like that, it doesn't bleed through. That's really amazing in my mind about the Tomoe River. But I would want to try it. Yeah, I want to try it. Hope you're feeling better this week. Well, funny that you mentioned it because I woke up with a little sort of throbbing here, but that seems to have passed. So let's hope it stays that way. Question: why? Is it a corrosion risk to eyedropper a pen with the metal section threads, but okay for a vac fill pens to have the metal plunger rod immersed in the ink? An excellent question. I assume that they make those rods out of something that is stainless, and I don't know if the sections, the metal used in sections that are not meant to be eyedroppered are necessarily stainless either. Having said that, I also wonder if anyone has ever really had an issue with eyedroppering a pen that was not meant to be eyedroppered except for leakage, because that is a big concern. The only time I have actually corroded something with ink was when I put a small ball, it was just a small ball bearing into a converter as an agitator. And heaven knows where I got that ball bearing, but it fit perfectly. Beautiful size, but it was not stainless. And I thought, why is this ink such a weird rusty color? Because it was a weird rusty color because that ball was rusting. So that, yeah. Beyond that, yeah. Maybe an empirical question. You may have to try it out. And if it corrodes, then it didn't work. But it's a very good question. That's the most reasonable answer I can give, I think. You can have only one Italian pen for the rest of your life. Which one and why? Well, if it's really going to be one, I think it'll have to be the Opera Master, the tobacco finish. I just love this pen, and it's a wonderful finish and a wonderful size. And after Mike tuned that nib, it's a beautiful writer. Plus, I really like that old. I'll show you that old 18K nib design they did. I just think that is very, very pretty. And again, it's a beautiful writer. So if I would have to pick one, it would probably be that. I'm looking for a good blue black. Any suggestions? Yeah, I like Waterman blue black, but it's not for everyone because it's a bit light. There are blacker blue blacks, if that makes sense. The only thing I really like about the Waterman is that it comes out so easily. Mont Blanc Midnight Blue is also very good, and that is a bit darker. It used to be iron gold, but now it's not. Shouldn't be any concerns if that is a concern to you. It's quite nice. We're discussing that Coke Zero has aspartame, and someone asked, is that why it has that sickly lingering aftertaste? Yes, and that's why I put lime in. That cuts through that a little bit. This was not my idea. My mate Simar came up with that, and it's not his invention, but it works. Here's a common question. When everyone is so backlogged, I have an original factory Schaefer music nib. I think I bought from Susan Worth about 15 years ago. I mistakenly misaligned the tines and need a recommendation for decent quality and lead time. For someone to fix it, or want to stick it in a carmine balance that needs a tune-up, maybe feed, have not looked at it in 5 years. If the question is who can do it, any Nibmeister. I really like Mike Masiyama, but he's become very famous over the years, and that's good. That means he gets a lot of business, which he absolutely deserves, but that also means he has long lead times. You can pay him double, and then he does it faster, which I think is, was it double? 25% extra. Anyway, you pay him more, and then he does it faster, which I think is fair. Some people complain about that, but I think that's fair. Like you want to be brought to the top of the queue, then pay the price, and then you. But I mean, this is his livelihood, right? I really don't have any qualms about that. Anyway, so that's an option. But any Nibmeister can do that. Any Nibmeister can realign the tines, straighten them out, no issue. So you can check some of the other ones. Again, Mark Bacchus, I think, has. I just think he was getting pretty busy too. Shop around. Mark Bacchus can do it. Independents can do it. Just contact them. See what their waiting times are at this point. 1 liter of Royal Blue from Pelican is 27 euros. Are there other inks in a 1 liter container? Probably, but the only one that really comes to mind quickly for me is Pelican, and I know that Noodless does have. If you ask them, I think they can put some of their inks in larger containers. You should ask Goulet Pens about that, because I think there was an old video of Brian showing off one of these massive bottles. Yeah. I can also easily sell you a 5 liter container of SBREBROWN, but that would not be 27 euros. but we can make that work. I can make it happen. Okay. Why is this so heartening? Thanks for the cheer. I hope that was actual cheer and that I'm not making you sad with all my ranting. I'm sorry. I hope you actually cheered, and if so, then yes, we will continue to do this. It's so heartening because we just hang out with friends and we just all try to be relaxed, and we need that right now. We need to have some relaxation to take our minds off of the state of the world sometimes. Any chance of reviewing the Nikaya dorsal fin version 2? There's always a chance. I just need to. I'm just thinking. I just need to con someone out of one. Maybe some leads. But I would want to wait again. If I have to ask someone to borrow their pen, and it's a valuable pen like that, I would rather not do it right now because of the pandemic. I don't want anything to get lost in the mail, right? So if that's a valuable piece. But one day, yeah. Aziza recently did a video with a whole bunch of Nikayas, I think. I don't know if there was a dorsal fin in it, but you could check out her channel because that typically works pretty well. No, wait, I said something because I was reading a question that doesn't even make sense. She does very good work, I think, and she has a nice. She did a good overview of all different kinds, not all, but like a number of different models of Nikaya. I don't know if there was a dorsal fin in it. Just saying. I use a Savoy cigar case, which holds 3 fountain pens, and the top slides on and stops at the bottom of the caps. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I know what you mean. These sliding cases. At some point, I was tempted to buy one, but then I realized I didn't actually need it. But yeah. Okay, we have some other blue-black recommendations. Water Mysterious Blue. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. The blue-black. Quink Blue-Black. Noodless Blue-Black. Diamine Blue-Black. 1864 Blue-Black are good. Iroshizuku Shinkai. Diamine Twilight. So we have options. Yeah. My first Santini is on its way to me. Well, Katya. Congratulations. I think you will enjoy that. The nice pens. What else do we have? What is the best way to clean ink out of a Visconti Homo sapiens piston filler? Draw up water and expel it, and draw it up again and expel it again. If you have a nib unit that you can remove, which I had on mine, but some of those Visconti nib units are in very tightly, then you have to be very careful, because if you start to just twist it, you can just misalign the nib and the feed completely. You don't want that. So what I do if I want to try that is I put the nib, what do I have that I can touch? Here. I put the nib and the feed, like I take my finger, I put the nib in there like this, okay? Like that. And I put my thumb on the feed, and then I unscrew the pen. Then you tend to not misalign the nib and feed so much. If you can do that, then you can take a syringe and just squirt water into it. It's more like a captive converter. You'll see that, but that's possible. If it's a power filler, a Homo sapiens power filler, and you can get the nib and feed out, then you have an even wider opening. It's even easier. But I don't know. You said piston filler. So piston filler, that I'm thinking of the lava. I had the not the Bronze Age, but the Steel Age something. Steel Age, I think so. That one that was a captive converter basically. I think I'm about over teals, just as now I have a ton of those. Blue, black, that leans blue or gray ideally. Ah, yes. Okay, so we've had suggestions. Excellent. I bought my Mont Blanc used from your review a while back. I've been a subscriber of yours for years. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, and I should point out, don't forget, if you're interested in buying pens, there is Virtual Pen Show on Instagram. I'm not like officially, I think I was one of the founders, but I don't get anything out of this, so don't worry about it. It's not a sponsored advertisement. I guess it's always sponsored, isn't it? Anyway, but on Instagram, Virtual Pen Show, people list their pens there. And sometimes you can get a good deal, and sometimes you don't. And you're also dealing with someone that you don't know. So there are some risks, but if you do it on eBay, there's also someone you don't know, but then you have eBay protection. So all I'm trying to say is exercise common sense, and you'll probably be very fine on Virtual Pen Show. But that's pretty much it. Because it's quite a wide variety. Some inexpensive pens, some very expensive pens. So they'll be useful. Because it was mentioned like secondhand, like pre-owned pens. Pendleton Brown can flex the steel nib pretty good. Yeah, but does he still work? Because I thought he had quit. But yeah. Well, hello there. What pen are you looking to buy? Well, nothing in particular. That sounded really sad. I had this weird. Sorry. I don't know. Alexander Nelton wept, for there were no more worlds to conquer. I don't know what I'm looking at or looking for. I don't know. I have a pen waiting for me in the US. I have a pen making its way to me now. Those are two that I've been looking for a long time. I don't know. I don't know. I have to think. Because I just don't, yeah. Coke Zero uses Splenda, which is newer substitute. Diet Coke and Pepsi use first sugar substitute sold in pink packages. Aspartame has sort of funk. That's developed. I see. That's the difference. Makes sense. What are your views on the Montegrappa Extra? Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to close over that. Thank you. Thank you for the explanation. That makes sense. What are your views on the Montegrappa Extra 1930? I know if I have views on the Montegrappa Extra 1930. Let me see this. Montegrappa Extra 1930. I just want to see if I have used this thing before. Yeah, no, don't have an opinion. I don't believe I have an opinion. Is that the Fortuna? If it's Fortuna, I do have an opinion. Because that I've reviewed. But no, I will be honest, Montegrappa is not a brand that massively appeals to me. Most of the Montegrappas I have used had very dry nibs, and beyond that, the designs typically don't really appeal to me either. This is a very subjective thing, right? To each his or her own. I just, I Montegrappa and me are not really a good mix. Which nib do you recommend as an every? It says as an every, but I'm assuming as an everyday writer or something from the SBREBROWN line. And they're all pretty good. I have a broad one, a broad nib. That's quite nice. The flexi is nice, but you have to like that flex. Depends on the size of your handwriting. I have not been disappointed by the nibs. I've used a couple, but not really been disappointed. I'm deciding between Parker, Sonnet, and Premiere. Any thoughts or opinions? Well, the Sonnet is a little slimmer. So if you like a slimmer pen, then I think that's a very good option. Premiere is very nice too. In your opinion, as the average age of the fountain pen community, if it does, gets older, do you foresee those elder pen people seeking wider girth pens, such as the Tombow Fat Boy? Yeah, I can see it happening. And I think in general, we're seeing an interesting trend with a trend towards extremes. I find that there's a reasonable number of pocket pens on the market now. So then you're talking about something that's small. Let me get this out of the way. Like this Enzo XS is a pocket pen, but then you also see oversized pens becoming more and more popular, and pens becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, like the what I showed before, the Bologna Extra. This is a large pen and it's heavy. I mean, with a brass liner, it's heavy, it's big. You've got to love that. Not everyone does, and that makes complete sense. So yeah, I could see how there would be an interest in bigger pens, but to be honest, I think that interest in bigger pens is there anyway. People are getting more and more into oversized pens. That's really become a thing, and it's becoming a thing more and more, I think. So I think that will continue. Yeah. What else do we have? What do you think of Frankel's logotherapy? Is it clinically effective? Well, I am not a clinician, so I would be a little hesitant to say yes or no. I think that, like with any type of therapy, typically these types of therapy are useful for some people and a little less useful for other people. And it also depends on what someone has. If someone has a phobia, then behavioral therapy can be very useful. If they have depression, cognitive behavioral therapy can be very useful. Client-centered therapy is useful if people have, I think, emotional problems that are not too profound. Then it can be very helpful to have a client-centered sort of humanistic perspective. So I'm sure that logotherapy also has specific advantages, but I don't know if it is the most effective type of therapy that's out there. Cross Bailey, yeah, I don't think I've reviewed it. We can see. Edison Premier versus Pineda Avatar. I think they're both good pens. Hi, I'm in Mexico watching you. Hello. Thank you. I appreciate that. What else do we have? Hello from Switzerland. What else do we have? A few weeks ago, we were talking about pen manufacturers in India. I found two, Luxor and Tolbav. I probably don't pronounce that correctly. They make Parker pens under license. I don't know what else they make. Yes, the Luxor I have reviewed. This was a while ago. I think the thing was called the Parker Beta, which was very interesting. That is a Parker that is exclusive, a model, sorry, that is exclusive to the Indian market, and has the clip and all that. But it feels different. It's Interesting. Yeah. Let me see. Ah, here you see, I'm not the only one. This Northern European American got second-degree burns on his face through sunblock when skiing in California. Yeah, exactly. This is our fate. Like, it's just, yeah, just how we are. We just burn. I have one pen. Thinking of getting another one for work. Single pen world isn't bad though. Oh, I agree. That's what I mean. Like you have one pen. Beware the man with one pen, right? He probably knows how to use it. Isn't that a saying? It is now. Hit myself in the face. Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's a slippery slope, though, the pens, right? There will be a day. There will be a day. There will be a day. Okay. I really like the nib on my Lamy 2000, buttery smooth. What other pens nibs can you recommend with similar smoothness? Any of the hundreds of pens out there. There are so many pens that it's very difficult to say, well, this or that. I mean, if you like that smoothness, Pelican, some of the Pelicans are very nice. Yeah, again, hundreds of options. So either you go for a large brand like Pelican, they have like a thing of the 600 or the 400, for example, have nice smooth nibs. You can also go for a more boutique brand like say Edison pens, where they tune the nibs before they go out, and you know that. So there are many options. Any recommendations as regards the ST Dupont fountain pen line? Yes, they have incredibly smooth nibs and they are very expensive, I found, but they do have very pleasant nibs. The ones I'm thinking of which ST Dupont. I have reviewed the Spectre. That was the James Bond tie-in, and that was a very pleasant writer. I may have reviewed. I want to say I have reviewed another one. Anyway, index on my website, SBREBROWN.com. Very smooth nibs, but often these are four figures and well into four figures, right? Very, very collectible. So, you know, that's again, it's not for everyone, but they are very good writers, but they're not cheap. What else do we have? What's the name of the man with the hat behind you? I think he's smoking. That's Roger. Roger the skeleton. If you follow me on Instagram, you will see Roger. How big is your pen collection? I think we settled on about 30. Yeah, call it about 30. About 30. And some of those are very inexpensive, for the record. Yeah, that's it. What else do we have? What else do we have? Still trying to buy my log B, never in stock. No, I have chatted recently. When I say recently, I mean a couple of weeks ago, because I wanted to get some refills for my log B, and I asked. Okay, I'm completely blanking on his name right now. Sorry. I asked the owner of log B. Again, sorry, I just completely blank on the name. And he said he's getting more products in. And I don't know if I can reveal this, but he only had that brownish waxed canvas. Maybe in the future there will be a little more than that. But I don't know if I'm supposed to share this, so I'll leave it at that. I won't go into any detail. But I think that sounded pretty cool to me. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is hang in there. They will be in stock again. It will happen. It just requires. Log B A5 journal suitable for lefties? Not sure, because I'm not a lefty. I don't see why not, because it opens up pretty much in the middle. So I don't foresee any issues. But then again, I'm not a left-hand user, so thank you. Following me for 8 years. I appreciate that. Thank you. What size micro mesh would you start with to smooth out a scratchy nib? Could you use 1,000 grit sandpaper? Well, I use 12,000 grit micro mesh, but their grit is a little different from sandpaper. So I would be loath to say, yes, 1,000 grit sandpaper is fine, because I don't want you to end up with no nib. So I don't know. Sandpaper, it would have to be really fine sandpaper, right? Because 12,000 grit micro mesh, if you run your finger across that, you don't even feel any resistance. That is smoothing. If we're talking about grinding a nib, that's different. Then you may want to go much lower, say 4,000 or something. Micro mesh. So be a little careful. There's probably an online resource that lists the like micro mesh to sandpaper conversion in grits or something. Any plans to review Leonardo Speranza? Maybe. There's nothing concrete, but you never know. I have a Faber-Castell loom with a medium nib, and it rides better than my Franklin Christoph Model 3 Mazuyama nib. Well, how about that? It happens. Yeah, also depends on what you get. I just want to see what's going on here because my phone is buzzing like crazy. Oh, okay. This is input I'm getting live from the crime scene. Your grits are wrong. SimRZ said Trizac 3 micron is safe, but not 1,000 grit. See, there we go. I heard it straight from the horse's mouth. Sorry, Aziz, I didn't call you a horse, but like it's coming straight live from the crime scene. It's coming to you. So don't use 1,000 grit. I had that feeling. But that's what I mean. I have my grits wrong, woman. No, I don't know if I do. But as I said, I'm pretty sure the micro mesh I used was 12,000 grit. Is that a thing? Or am I not making this up? 12,000 grit micro mesh. Well, that's a thing. Pretty sure that's what I used. Yeah, that's the gray. That's the very fine, I think. Yes, you can find online, you can find things. Yeah. You see, and then you have, yeah. So, no 1,000 grit. Let's see what else is coming in here. 12,000 grit micro mesh or a super fine buffing stick. Yeah, that's another good thing. If you can't find, that's a very good suggestion. If you can't find the micro mesh, you can always get one of those super fine buffing sticks for your nails, which you can find in a lot of shops. Use the finest grit you can find. You should be fine. Yeah. Okay. So no 1,000 grit because that's gonna destroy it. I had that feeling. Thank you, Aziza. Thank you, Simar. Thank you for the input. I appreciate it. What else do we have? What is the best pen for use with SBREBROWN ink? I don't think it really matters, but I would say this: the finer the nib, the less you're going to see the shading of the ink. So a broader nib, you can use it with a fine nib, in which you can use it with an extra fine nib. In fact, you can use it with an extra fine nib or a Saibitogi nib. You're just not going to really see any shading. It's going to look like a brown. So the broader nibs will give you, I think, a nicer experience simply because you will see the shading better. But that's it. That's not, it's compatible with any fountain pen, so it shouldn't really make a difference in that regard. Do you think that those too immersed into fountain pens are making up for something lacking in their lives? Possibly, but I think that can be said for any interest or hobby, right? People who really dive head over heels into something may be looking for some sort of sense of belonging or something. Yeah. What else do we have? Every time I hear the word gusher, I want one. What are the gushiest gushers? Well, it really depends. Aziza has a Pelican triple broad nib. That's a gusher. M1000. That's definitely, I think that is, was that the oblique triple? I think that was the oblique triple broad that was the super gushy gusher. Yeah. Would you say you are more function over form? Well, it doesn't matter to me because I can't really stand pens that don't write properly. Because then what's the point? I don't understand that. Like, I've had discussions like this in the past. Well, I've had a discussion in the past. This is a long time ago. I'm not going to mention the brand, but I did a review that was not incredibly positive about that pen. And the response that the owner of that brand, who put his pens on Kickstarter, gave me was, yeah, but they're not pens, they're art objects. Okay, but they're also on Kickstarter as fountain pens. So oddly enough, people tend to have an expectation that the art object will write if it is labeled as a fountain pen, right? So the function does really matter. And if a pen is uncomfortable, then that function also fails. It may write, but it's uncomfortable to use. So that's another issue. Having said that, the form does matter. I do like it. If I look at what I have here, do I have anything that's Spartan? Well, I mean, I guess you could use something like this. I mean, this is, again, I love this pen. Enzo pocket pen, plus it does this. Well, this is a very simple pen. I love it, but it's a simple pen. They're also, I'm sorry, I hit the microphone. They're also more elaborate pens. This is much more elaborate, right? But that's a different type of pen that serves a different function. And I also really like that, but that's different, right? So I do like a pen that looks good. I'll be honest. It has to be a mix. It has to write well, but also has to look good. What do you think about, have you ever used a technical pen with a tubular point? Think of Rotring Rapidograph for the isograph, etc. No, I haven't. I simply have no use for those kinds of pens, so I don't. No. What is the oldest fountain pen you own? My father's Parker 51 is now 60, but yeah, my oldest one is my granddad's Parker 75. I would have to look up the year code, which I did at some point, but I forgot. It's nice that they have a year code on them. But I don't know from the top of my head, but that's the oldest one for sure. Right? Yeah, for sure. What else do we have? Does Montblanc make a holster for the 149 that can be attached to a belt buckle? I'm almost certain that they don't. There are other people who might, if you ask them, who make custom leather products, but I don't think of any. No, I can't think of any pen manufacturer who makes holsters for pens, as in something that attaches to a belt. It's an interesting idea, but I've never seen one. Just thinking again, no, I don't think I've ever seen one. Okay. How do you become a nibmeister? Well, it's a lengthy process. You go to the mountains, usually Himalayas, and you are trained for 15 years in the art of nibmeistering, which means that in the middle of the night, you're woken up and they throw a pen in your face and you have to grind it on the spot. And at some point, you pass a test, which means that you have to close your eyes and put two nibs together just like this. Try doing that with your fingers. Do it now. It's not that easy with your eyes closed. You have to put them together. If you can put them together exactly there with the two tips with your eyes closed, then you are a nibmeister. Alternative version of that story is you grind a number of nibs, and once you believe that you have reached a certain level of skill in doing so, you can call yourself a nibmeister. It's not a protected thing, and the quality of nibmeisters may therefore vary. So I would also look at people's experiences with those nibmeisters and talk to people, see what they say. All the Nipmeisters I have mentioned, again, like this is not meant to be some sort of paid commercial, but Mike Masayama, Dan Smith, Mark Bacchus, Independence, Richard Binder, but you would have to catch him at a pen show. John Martishaw, and others. I'm missing some, but these people are all great. They're all great. They have good track records. They will make things work. So that's always a good option. Okay. What else do we have? I admire your level-headed responses regarding noodlers given negative experience. Are you by any chance a stoic? I try to be. We try. Hello from Florida. Hello. Where is the Pelican liter for $27? Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know where. I know I've seen them in Europe, but I don't know if in the US. I don't know where you would find them, and they would be imported, so they might be more expensive. But that price sounds correct. That's about what I remember paying for it. I bought one in Germany, oddly enough. Liter. It's a big squarish plastic bottle with a little thing at the end, and you squeeze it, and it works well. It's a lot of ink though. Goed, Twente. Ja. Dank u. Ook voor het zo opschrijven, dank je. New Mont Blancs, 149, 2020 production. What's the latest serial numbers? I don't know. No idea. I have to call Mont Blanc, ask them in the boutique. I'm just scrolling, sorry. How do you fill a carène? Do you either like fill the converter directly, or do you fill you put it in the section? I've had no issues really with filling them up with the converter in the section. However, there is a small issue that there could be some leakage. So that is a pen where you have to make sure that you expel a few drops of ink from the second, wipe it down. Otherwise, you overfill it and it can leak, especially if it moves around in a bag or something. Had a negative academic experience, and I'm still struggling over things that happened back then. I'm considering seeing a therapist, but fear getting judged for not liking my degree or university. Yeah, but suffering through things is not really an attractive alternative either. So I would definitely seek out some sort of therapy then. What else do we have? Yes, this is a good point. I guess therapists are not judgmental. Their whole point of existence is to be on your side. Yeah, that's true, and also help you reflect on things, which could be confrontational. But I wouldn't worry about a therapist judging you. A good therapist should not judge you. They may help you reflect on things and make you see things a little differently, but they shouldn't judge you. That should not be a concern. I'm not trying, like I'm just saying, like I wouldn't have that as a concern. Do you enjoy spending time in outside, such as hiking or camping? Yes, I do. Also, what fountain pens stand out to you the most that are inspired by nature? I'm just looking. I don't think I have anything inspired by nature. Although I suppose maybe finish like this. This is on a yard lead. Where's my camera? That's my camera. Oh! I suppose this is a bit floral. Oh, sorry. A bit floral. Is it floral? Let's call that floral. But pens inspired by nature, I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that. You had that series from Cross, the botanical, whatever it was called, something botanical with flowers on. Those were kind of cute. They're a bit thin for me personally, a bit skinny, but nice. Hello, Zima. We've already indirectly communicated just now. Which Graf von Faber-Castell pen of the year would you buy if you had the cash? Well, there was that samurai version they did. I did have a thing for samurai swords at some point, so I think that would be cool. I would not. I would only buy that if someone said, "Here's the money, buy that pen," because they're very expensive, but not bad. Yeah, this is a question about what are my favorite Dutch TV shows? Well, I've never really been a big television person, to be honest. I've never really watched a whole lot of TV. So no, I don't have a clear answer. Sorry. Ackerman number 7, Queen's Night Blue. Yes, Koningin nog blå. That's a nice one. That's a nice one. Yeah, that'd be a good blue-black. I agree. Califolio Botany Bay. That's another. I haven't tried that one, but interesting brand. Califolio. All sorts of fun words to say. What else do we have? It's weird, ever since I got my 2000, nothing else has interested me, but I've gotten into custom pens and that's kept the fire alive. Yeah, that can be a fun thing to look for something, different from what you have. And I think custom pen makers can do really interesting jobs. Yeah. Do rollerballs accept different inks well? I have an ink that just won't work in fountain pens as it dries in the nib instantly. You could try, but you would, yeah, exactly. Pen BBS. You would have to have, of course, a rollerball that accepts fountain pen ink, but they exist. Pen BBS makes pretty nice ones. They're pretty nice roller tips I found too. They're quite smooth. That would work. You could try it. How many fountain pens do you own? We've talked about that. Can you persuade the pen habit to come back on YouTube? No, I cannot. For two reasons. I understand the question very well, but the first thing is I don't have, to be honest, the arrogance to think that he would listen to me. And secondly, I respect Matt's choice. He wanted to quit. He wanted to move on and do something else. So I think we should. Oh, sorry. I think we should respect that as a choice. That's just, he's moved on with his life, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a good decision. Like if he wanted to do that, then he should do that. So they have it. No. Hello. As an older woman, 68, that's not old. Young. With arthritis in my hands, I find the more girthy pens more comfortable when writing. Yeah, no, I understand that. I reviewed the pen at some point. There was a Japanese brand, and I never, I think, learned the brand name. But you see them on eBay sometimes as jumbo pens, and they are huge. They are massive, like huge diameter, really thick, and have a one-way shutter valve, which is kind of interesting. Not super long, but just very girthy. And they were designed for older people with arthritis, people with issues with their hands, so they could use something much girthier, which I thought was a really nice thing. But these are vintage pens. You really have to be in eBay at the right time, and you may find one. Yeah, but if you're interested, check out the review, because it's kind of interesting to see those in action. I want to say that was plastic, but it could have been ebonite, the whole thing. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. How would you handle someone who feels the world is against them? I watched a vid discussing a person who thought crosswalk signs were racist. Made me a bit sad. The person jumped to that thought. Well, yeah, I mean, to each his own. Of course, you could have different opinions on this. I don't immediately see the link with why you would feel think that would be racist, but I don't know what crosswalk signs we're talking about. So people are entitled to have their feelings, of course. And I think the way to handle someone who feels the world is against them is, you could talk to them. I don't know if it would be the best course of action to try to change their opinion. And you may also have to conclude that you simply cannot change their opinion, and that therefore you have to adjust the way you look at those people, right? I think that might be the most optimal way to do it. accept that this is their opinion, which may be different from yours, but that doesn't make it any less valid. And that therefore you see what happens then. If you still feel the same way, or if that changes your opinion. Hola. Saludos. Gracias. From Bradford, Ontario, though. Thank you. Hell. Over scroll again. Oh, there we go. Do you think fine nibs are more common in the workplace? I think it might depend on the workplace. Fine nibs, convenient, filling out forms, writing in smaller spaces. So in that regard, yes, I could see it. Yeah. I'm an American living in Virginia, but of Dutch ancestry. I spent the whole summer hiding from the sun. People make fun of me, but I burn like a flash cube. Yeah, exactly. I know. What is the lesson from the meditations that you find yourself keep coming back to? There is one that is actually the Democritus quote that Marcus Aurelius borrowed, but that I do try to remind myself of. And it doesn't always work, but I try. And that is, the universe is change and life is opinion. And I think that's a good way to look at things. Things change continuously. So if you go through something pleasant, that could change and become unpleasant. But the flip side to that is if you go through something unpleasant, then that can also become pleasant. Or at the very least, it become less unpleasant because things are continuously in flux. And the second thing is life as opinion, I think, is also a good way to look at things because your opinion may not be someone else's, which doesn't mean that either of you is wrong. You just have different opinions about something, right? And that doesn't mean that everyone is right, because that's another type of view. But it doesn't mean that their opinion is any less valuable. And someone may tell you something that you may disagree with, but I think what you have to try to remember, and that is hard often, is that no matter whether you believe it is right or wrong, it is that person's viewpoint. And that person's viewpoint determines how they live their life and what they go through in life. And as a result, life is opinion. So I think that one, the universe is change, life is opinion, is a good way to look at things. Is there anything you do to use your pens? Any ritual or schedule you assign to enjoy your pens? Not really. I use them at work. I also recently started to journal, and that's a good way to use pens. And I just try it every time I write something, even if it's a grocery list. I try to use fountain pens. That's really true. And then you just always use them, right? It becomes just a part of what you do. Caran d'Ache Le Mans or St. Dupont D-line? I don't know if I would have a preference. I think both of those have very nice nibs, so I don't think I have a preference. Can you post a picture of all your pens? I could. Would that help? I think I can. I'm just seeing because it's like, I don't know if this will fit in one picture in a way that you can also see them, but theoretically I could, yes. I like some feedback in a pen. Really not a fan of super smooth nibs. Yes, I think that's a yeah. Me too. If it's too smooth, that's not pleasant either. Okay, we have a number of people joining in to really warn against using 1000 grit sandpaper. Don't use 1000 grit sandpaper. Now we know. I've tried to smooth out a nib on a whetstone. Can't recommend that. No. It's I remember a story. I shan't go into too much detail as to the whom, but there once was a pen reviewer. It wasn't me. Who told me the story that someone had lent him a pen that he dropped nib down, and that he initially tried to sort of fix himself. didn't work. Ended up replacing that pen for that person. Took the pen, the nib that he had worked on, to Mike Masayama. And I love this. Mike Masayama, the experienced nib meister who was trained by Mr. Nagahara of Sailor, it wasn't this pen, but when he was handed that nib, looked at it and said, grinding these is not as easy as it seems, is it? I just find that funny. That's true. It's not as easy as it looks, and it takes a lot of practice. Okay. Does Chris Thompson still make pens? I have a couple of his pocket jewels. I don't know. I do not know. We have to check. Any modern British brands out there apart from Yardled, Onoto, or Conway Stewart? Well, the British bespoke pens which took over the Conway Stewart, but nothing immediately comes to mind except for, I just want to say Jack Sparrow, but I wanted to say Jack Rowe, is it? I think, who's an incredibly nice guy, but he's actually a jeweler who makes fancy pens, often very expensive. I mean, very expensive, but that's because he uses gold and such, and incredibly artistic pens. He's in the UK, but those are art pens. They're usable, but they're art pens, so they're very expensive, and understandably so. Is the Leonardo Momento Zero Art Deco a limited edition? I don't have an immediate image for the Leonardo Momento Zero Art Deco, but I'm saying I'm probably going to go with yes then. Leonardo Momento Zero. I want to see him now. Grande Art Deco, the Ebonite. Oh, that's the Ebonites, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure those were yes, those were limited editions. What else? How old do you think the average pen collector is? Are there more young or older people getting into the hobby? Well, I think many of the older people have been in it for a long time, but I do see an influx of young people just on the basis of the demographics that YouTube gives me. There is an influx of young people. Go to, it's a little hard now, but go to a pen show and see there's 11-year-olds there who are into pens. I just saw someone on Instagram, a little pen girl or something, who's doing Instagram TV reviews of pens. I think she's 8 years old. So there's definitely a stream of young people coming in. Yeah. What else do we have? Oh, that's another good suggestion. Yes, use an eyedropper for the gushiest gusher. Yeah, make a good eye. That can definitely make a difference. Yeah. Do you or Aziza ever do right out of the box writing, so no pre-rinsing? It happens sometimes, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. If I have to review it, I don't, because I want to give pen the fairest review I can give it. So if there's any machining oil or something left in the feed, then that may make the pen skip. And as a result, I'm not giving it the fair treatment that I think it deserves. So for those kinds of pens, I don't. If it's something personal, I've done it. Sometimes I get something in that's incredibly inexpensive, and I just put ink in, and often, oddly enough, it writes. So, can you recommend a good starter Urushi pen for someone with a quality pen without going bankrupt? Yeah, contact Tamanuri Studios. No, I don't have it here. I have it there. I'm not going to grab it. But he does good work, and he's starting out, and he does, in my mind, very good Urushi, and it is a lot more affordable than, say, buying in Nikaya or buying in the Dimitri or this kind of stuff. How's Ergo Roscoe doing? I think he's alive because I see that he sees my posts on Instagram. I purchased a Super 5 0.7 millimeter stub fountain pen on a trip to Hong Kong and love it. I can't find other medium stub nib options in the market. Nemo Sign had 0.8 stubs, but they went out of business. Any idea? Yeah, Nemo Sign. Their Knox nibs were they were the Knox nibs were available, I think, in below 1 millimeter stubs. Sorry, it took me a long time to finish that. Here's an interesting story because you're responding that you like my story. So here's a story, and Aziza can confirm this. Once upon a time, we were in Nuremberg for Insights X. This is a very general stationery show, so they also have school supplies. It's not just fountain pens; it's stationery. A Super 5 was there, and I was talking to the owner, like the two people from Super 5, and they had stands on these little booths, one of those big sort of Messegebäude, you know what you don't. So like one of these big convention centers. Super 5, and they had one of these standing tables, you know, that you have in some bars that you lean on. So we're standing there, we're talking, and there's these two people from Super 5, and a young lady comes up, walks behind them, stands there, but I'm facing the wall, so I'm facing that area, and there's these two guys from Super 5, and there's this young lady. So I'm talking to them, and as I'm talking to them, I'm staring in their direction, right? And her shirt just comes off. I wasn't really sure what was going on, but a lot came off. It turns out she was going to be body painted. That was part of the Super 5 display. I would kind of expect that you would body paint somewhere behind closed doors and then put that person there as part of your display, but it was a live event. But because I'm talking to these guys, it's really awkward because you have to look that way because that's where your conversational partners are, but you're also trying not to look. So it gets a very strange, very strange. Sorry, but I had to share that. Okay, what else do we have? Oh, Birmingham Penco. Yes, that's a good Birmingham Penco. Yes, they are still there. That's a UK company, and I think they may also do interesting stubs. Yes. What else do we have? We have about 13 minutes. SBREBROWN ink is now in 60 milliliter bottle only. Aren't you a Dutch master anymore? I shall always be a Dutch master, but those 60 milliliter bottles were a bit more convenient. What else do we have? Santini, that's another good suggestion. They make nibs that are not standard because they're made by themselves, so you may be able to customize them from them a bit. Those would be a bit more expensive, but relatively speaking, I don't think that the prices are terrible. What are the limits of Stoicism to you? Well, I definitely think there are limits. And I think in really extreme cases, the assumptions of Stoicism tend to fall apart a bit. I think in everyday issues, in everyday small frustrations and small annoyances, I think Stoicism can be very helpful. But when it comes to extreme things, the standard example is the Stoic sage being tortured to death. Strictly speaking, the Stoic sage should then say, oh, that's okay, it's not within my control. I don't think that really works that way. In fact, Diogenes Laertius mentions a Stoic called was Diogenes? He might actually be called Diogenes the Renegade. I mainly remember the Renegade because that's the best nickname ever. In any case, Diogenes Laertius wrote about the lives of philosophers, and he points out how this gentleman was a Stoic, an important Stoic teacher, but he got an eye affliction, which was so painful that, strictly speaking, the Stoics would say, well, pain is an indifferent. Like, it's not a virtue, it's not a vice, it's just you have the ability to still respond in a certain way to that. You can choose how you respond to that pain. But this man was in so much pain with his eye that he had to admit that pain is not an indifferent and that you cannot just treat it as an indifference. So that's what I mean. If you go to extreme cases, I don't think that works anymore. What else do we have? What else do we have? What is your opinion on trans rights? Well, that's an interesting question. I think that is something we could take up this entire afternoon with, but trans people are people. So as a result, I think a very good start would be to treat trans people as people, which seems to be a revolutionary idea to some people out there, but they are people. And I understand that sometimes that may lead to uncomfortable things, like you go to a like single gender bathroom and there may be someone in there who, strictly speaking, like technically, biologically speaking, may be another gender, but if that person feels like something else, or if that is a man who actually feels to be a woman, or the other way around, for example, then what's the point? Then a massive issue can be made out of that, but that person feels like someone completely different. And there actually is very good neuroscientific evidence to suggest that, yes, then your brain is a little different. And then you may have a quote unquote female brain or a male brain, even though you may be in a body of the opposite gender. So then I think, why would it be a massive insurmountable obstacle if, this is just one issue, I realize that, but if that person would want to use that type of bathroom, is that really something that needs to end the world? Because I don't think it is. And I also think that it's very easy for us who, like, say, I would say a cis male, and I am a male, and if you want to use the terminology, like I would be a he, him, his, etc. But that means that I never have to deal with the trials, the tribulations, the challenges of feeling like a woman in a male body. So I think that respect and as much understanding as you can muster for someone who goes through such serious matters and faces such serious challenges in their lives would be appropriate. Ipse dixit. Okay. I recall reading that modern Parker uses gold-covered steel nibs for their mid-range pens. I would think that established brands like Montblanc and Lamy would use the same practice to cut the costs. Why don't they? I have no idea, Vladimir. You could absolutely cut costs. It's possible they do, but maybe they just really refuse to use steel nibs or something. Would you prefer a TWSBI Eco or a 580 for note-taking in school? I'm not sure which one to get as a first piston filler. I don't know if one is really much better than the other. So I think that would be a matter of what you prefer. Maybe the roundness of the Eco would be nice for longer writing, but I think they perform very similarly. Did you practice Aikido at some point as well? I have the feeling you have, so then we have two interesting comments. No, but I'm afraid I have not. I'm afraid we have not. But we're both Dutch. And we like pens, so we still have two things in common. Yardelad sell the Grand Viceroy sells the Grand for 1,250, a lot of money. Would you buy it for this price if you didn't have one? Yeah, given that these are stellar pens, yeah, that is very expensive. And I find them very expensive, but the quality you get in return is really outstanding. And I've used a bunch, both myself and other people, and the quality is consistently high. So I would definitely have no issues recommending them. Okay. Yeah. I overscrolled. Can you suggest a better e-shop than cult pens for Europeans? Yeah, I've never had issues with cult pens, but of course, if you go to my website, there's a bunch of sponsors. And it's pouring again. The reason I recommend them is that you get a 10% discount if you order through them. So in no particular order, there's La Couronne du Comte, there is Appelboom, Ackerman, both Ackermans, right? This one in The Hague and the one in Amsterdam, they have worldwide shipping. And for the Hague Ackerman, for La Couronne du Comte, for Appelboom, you get a 10% discount from my website. So win-win situation. I don't get a commission or anything, but discount. What is your favorite pen make for each nib width? I don't think I've ever asked myself that question. I don't have say like this is the best broad and this is the best fine. There are a few, I'm just looking at my pens here. There are a few makers that I think are very consistent. I think Sailor is very consistent. Yes, pretty much, isn't it? Sailor is very consistent. Some other brands are much less consistent. But I always find Sailor a pretty safe bet. Yeah. All right. We are getting to the end of this because I like to keep these to about 2 hours. Of course, we shall be back at some point next week, probably. I have seen the Aurelius quote translated as the universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Yeah, it's difficult because the Marcus Aurelius, although being a Roman emperor, wrote in Greek, and the Greek is rather terse. O cosmos aliousis o theos hypolypsis. So it's very, very short. So there is always a bit of interpretation. Mundus mutatio vita opinio in Latin. So it doesn't even have any verbs in Latin. Anyway. Super 5 trauma. Well, it was a bit traumatic, yeah. It was interesting. How do you say boom in the languages you know? Well, it's boom in English, it's boom in Dutch, it's boom in German, and it's probably boom in French. So I don't think there was much variation there, but I could be wrong about the French though. All right. What else do we have? Thank you for sharing your thoughts about trans people. More people should think about this. Yes, and I think, it would be, let me rephrase that. I don't think it is too much to ask to just respect our fellow people, right? I don't want to sound like a hippie, but I mean, that's really all. To show each other respect. And if everyone could do that, think of how different the world would be if we would not continuously offend each other. We would not continuously say things that are very offensive to people that we know are offensive. We say it anyway. What a different world it would be, right? So, yeah, I think that could be really interesting. People, we have 150 viewers. We're almost down to 2 hours. So I'm going to gently say goodbye. I give you the same kind reminder without any pressure. But remember, if you do want to support me, there is Patreon, patreon.com/SBREBROWN. You can support me for as little as $1 a month, and you don't have to. But I'm always very grateful. I'm grateful to everyone, but I'm very grateful to those people who do, because it gives me a little bit of support for what I'm doing. And lots of little things add up to a bit more. And it's just I always very much appreciate that, because it's an expression of appreciation. And of course, I also appreciate you if you don't support me. And I'm also very happy for your viewership, for hanging out with you here and all those things. But it's just an option if you were, because I often get the question of what is there something I can do to support you? Yeah, that's a way you can do it. All right. Having said that, I'll see you again soon. I'll keep you posted. Usually on Instagram, these are announced. That's where it shall be. Stay safe, y'all. And I'll see you soon. Bye.